This unique building form can be created by first starting with a model line that's a rectangle. So I'm going to pick model and rectangle. And then in that first level of the conceptual mass, I'm just going to draw here a rectangle. You can draw it at a size that you think is appropriate to those people down there. Something. You're going to select this rectangle and pick Create Form and then give it a height. Now you can select the mass. You might need to use your tab key to select it. And then here we can add an edge. When we add that edge, it's going to be a straight edge, but I can add it right here. And I can add another one over here. If you want to see inside the model to make it a little easier, you can select it and pick X-ray. And when you use X-ray, you can see where these edges are. And then select here this small grip right there. If you pull it out a little, it'll automatically create additional arrows you can use to kind of pull it back a little. If you get warnings, don't worry about those for now. You can then click on this corner and pull it out. So you're creating that kind of angled corner. And just by having these additional edges, we can this out and back a little bit and then pull this corner out. So this is basically creating the shape itself. I'll use my tab key to select the mass and pick X-ray again to get back to my form. Then when you get the height and the shape that you'd like, you can save it and then load it into a project. So you have to create a new Revit file. And what I normally do is I create a new Revit file and open the 3D view and close the plan view so that when I load it into the project and I pick here the project 4 or whatever project it is, it will come right in. And if I say here to override the existing version and parameter, it will then add this other form that I just created. So over here you can see that I started to put in the massing and site tab this curtain system on. And so when you pick curtain system and you select your face, over here the drop down in the properties panel you can pick edit type and duplicate that existing curtain system, give it its own name, whatever size you decide on, and then change here the grid spacing. I went with something longer, 40 feet by 20 feet, but you might use something different. I just did that quickly so that I could change here the type, and then I can pick Create System, and it creates that system for that face. You can do that for the other ones too. Select the face and then pick Create System. And once you have the panels in place, you can use the Tab key to select just the panel. And in the same way, you have this system panel that's glazed, but we want to use here a solid panel. So eventually what you would do then is to also pick Edit Type, pick Duplicate, and create here a solid, brown maybe panel. And then under Material, you can pick here the default material for that panel and find something that you might want to use for that panel color. You might also decide to highlight this default material, right click and pick duplicate, and then call this here panel curtain panel brown or light brown, whatever you decide to use in your different shades of brown. And then here the graphics tab is going to be for your shaded view. and the appearance for your rendering and your realistic. So if you just wanted to make sure and check to make sure that that worked, you could pick here this brown color and use this bar on the side to create your different shades. You can even go through and use some of these Pantone colors. But here there's a big range of different colors that you can choose from as you're looking inside these different values. Here's a kind of a lighter brown, whatever you want to use. That's going to be for shaded. But then you go to Appearance, the Appearance tab, down at the bottom left corner, you can use this Asset Browser. Change your view if you'd like to the thumbnail view. Go to the Appearance library and look here for glass or some kind of material if you'd like to use a finish or stucco, whatever the material is that you decide on. Here there are a few panels that are dark bronze, maybe that would be the color. Double click on it, it becomes that appearance for the rendering portion or the realistic portion. You can do the same thing to create other curtain panels. So you can have a curtain panel brown, curtain panel, light brown, whatever it is. And you do have some reflectance. And over here you do have also transparency if you wanted it to be transparent. Okay, so now when I click on it here, you can see that it picked up that little bit of brown color. I also wanted to add one of my favorite tools. It's in the Modified tab under Clipboard. It's Match Properties. You can click on this little paintbrush icon, and it's similar to other programs like AutoCAD, where you can select this panel as your source, and then everything you select after that will match that panel. So it makes it a little bit easier to continue with that colored panel. That should help you to create the browns and the clear glass that goes through. Also, there are no mullions on this yet, so if you go to the Architecture tab and click on Mullion, you can pick all grid lines, and there are several to choose from here. But if you click on that curtain system, then you'll be adding those mullions to that panel. And then when you pick to turn your shadows on, you'll see this nice shadow that will start to be created as you start to put your panels in. You can also then give it a background. You could go to the graphics display options here and go to background and decide on something like a gradient or even put your own sky in. At this point you can put here either use topography or just use kind of a floor system, just one like a floor system that would be like a base, and change the material to something maybe this kind of a light gray bluish color, loading some of the entourage, the people, using the realistic view, setting a tree or two in there, that'd be great. You can use the gradient background to establish some of these colors in the background. And because we're looking at it from a different view, you're looking kind of down on it, the colors are going to be different. You could also create a camera view. That might be kind of a nice feature for this one. If you go to the level 1 view, you could here pick up a camera and kind of point it to the building in that way, and then that way you can create a view that looks at this structure in the way that the photo does. In the camera view, in the full navigation wheel here, you can also change it so that it can look up and down and around. I think it might be better to get some of that ground in the front, sort of like that. You have a perspective view of it. And then in here you could change your background if you'd like to pick up those gradients or whatever the colors are that you'd like for this background. Of course, your drawing, it will look different in a realistic view because I still have my mass on. I believe that when I go to the Massing and Site tab, I can turn my mask off, and then I'll have a better idea of what it will actually look like in both of these views, even in the 3D view. Okay, that should help you to get started with this, and give you some ideas on how to create these panels. You can continue to change here the material so that it can look a little bit more in line with what the photo is showing here. And let me know if you need any help.